The Georgia Bulldogs went into Austin and told the whole state of Texas, there's levels to this. They introduced the University of Texas to real SEC football, and although the refs tried their hardest to keep them in the game, they were just too overmatched. And to keep it in the SEC, Alabama looks lost. As they struggle for their third game in a row, their championship hopes might be out the window with the loss to Tennessee. And I'm going to explain exactly why there's no longer a discussion. Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft class, and it's not even close. That and more coming up on the Vance Barnes Show. Man, what is up? What is up? You already know what it is, man. Welcome to another episode of the Vance Barnes Show. I am him. He is me, Glitch in the Matrix, your host, Vance Barnes. I appreciate you guys tapping in with me. We thought this game last night would be one for the ages. We thought Georgia versus Texas, the atmosphere was crazy. The buildup was insane. We thought this would be one of the greatest college football games we've seen in a while. And it just turned out to be an absolute mismatch. I mean, Georgia took what was the number one team in the country, and they made them look like at times they didn't even belong on the same field as them. It was that bad. And if you actually watch the game, don't look at the box score, don't look at the stats. If you actually watch the game, you know how lopsided this game really was. Because I said it, the refs tried their hardest to make them stay in the game, but it wasn't close. I said when Georgia opened up their season and they absolutely thrashed Clemson like they were a JV team, that I thought this team was going to go on a roll. That they would run the table and that they would put a stamp on this being one of the greatest college football dynasties that we've ever seen. They looked that good against the Tigers in their first game of the season. But then they go on and they lose to Bama. And what's now looking like a fluke. It's looking like that game is a fluke. Take it off the records, because they are still looking like there's not one team in the country that can stop them from getting their third championship in 4 years. That's how, I mean, at this point, I don't know what to think, if the rest of the field just isn't that good or if Georgia is just that much overpowered over everybody else. Because beating great teams shouldn't look this easy. Beating a great team, a number one team in the country, shouldn't be as easy as they made it look last night. Texas was the number one team, ranked team in the country. And had it not been for somebody making a call to the head ref, I don't know who Kirby Smart pissed off, who made the call, that Buffalo little Wild Wings little button they pushed it, because the refs got involved in this game heavy. And they weren't even trying to hide it. It was like somebody made the call like, hey, let's keep this game somewhat close. And I'm not sure if the NCAA just said, we can't let this get out of hand because it's a bad look. But the refs, again, they made it clearly obvious that they were going to put their stamp on this game and get involved in some way, one way or the other. Because had they blown them out, had the Georgia Bulldogs gone into Austin, great game, great Saturday, and just absolutely blown them out of the waters like they could have, this would have been a very bad look for the playoff expansion that the NCAA has pushed on us, has tried to feed down our throats, and that people had pushback on. Like fans, we had pushback on it. We were already like, the argument was, sometimes the games between the 1 and 4 seed aren't even close. Why are we getting 12 seed? Or are we getting a 12 seed? Right? 12-team playoffs doesn't make any sense. Because teams that are in the top 10 to 12 this year, half of them don't look that great, if we're being honest. Again, the playoff expansion so far isn't looking like a great idea. So if Georgia would have gone in there, and if they go into the postseason with 2 to 3 blowouts with teams within those top 12 in the playoffs expansion, it's not a good look. If they just go in there and blow out the number one team in the country and then they end up being the 5th seed later on, it's not a great look for the NCAA. Because if we're being honest, to me, there's only 3 teams so far this year that have looked impressive. Oregon, Georgia, and Ohio State that their only loss comes at Oregon. Those are the only 3 teams that look like, hey, they have a shot at winning a national championship. Not Penn State, no longer Alabama. Tennessee is ranked 6th. They didn't look great this week. I mean, Texas, we just saw what the performance they did against Georgia. There's only 3 teams, in my opinion, that have a chance at winning a national championship. So a 12-team playoff, just like we all assumed it would be, isn't going to be great. Hopefully, I eat my words. Hopefully, it is what we want it to be. Hopefully, it is what the NCAA wants it to be, which is great football, high-quality football. but it's just not looking like that's going to be the case. Now, onto the refs. This game was so crazy and bizarre for so many reasons because, like I said, they came out in that second half and somebody told the head ref, you need to start making some calls. Never have we seen a pass interference call get reversed after the fact. They called it. It was a done deal, although it was a terrible call to start with. It wasn't a PI. If anything, the receiver pushed off and the DB still got in a great spot. It was a terrible throw. It absolutely flipped the game, but you made the call. You threw the flag, you made the call, you made the announcement, you moved the ball. That's not a reviewable call. You literally cannot do that. It's not in the rule book anywhere that says you can pick up this flag. They didn't even pick up the flag. They just said after the fact, hey, it wasn't a PI, Texas football. Because again, it was a horrible call in the first place. It clearly wasn't PI, but once you make the call, you have to stick with it. And not to mention, the refs reversed the call after they had to stop play because students were throwing bottles onto the field, right? They threw about 200 bottles onto the field in the corner of the end zone after the call. They showed it on the big screen. They had to stop the game because they obviously can't play with a bunch of Gatorade bottles on the field. Steve Sarkisian goes over there, calms everybody down. I'm thinking the refs are talking about whether they're going to throw a flag on the home team because they can do that. Nah, they go and somebody made that call and they said, here, we're going to actually, they had already moved the ball. Georgia, if they're not for the students throwing the bottles, Georgia would have ran another play. They can't, it makes no sense. And it's a horrible precedent for what is to come. Because what if we get in a big game with a team and the fans, it's a terrible call, and the fans don't agree with it? Can they just throw things on the field to make the refs have to look at it longer? Right? And I get the refs aren't thinking about that in that exact moment. But, hey, something you just can't do. It set a terrible precedent for it. But it is what it is. It's over. It's done with. It still had zero impact on the game whatsoever. All it did was make the score a little bit closer than what it would have been. Because if Texas doesn't get that call, if Texas doesn't get another BS gimme call late in the game, this game is easily 40-7 instead of 30-15. Which looks, obviously, like I said, the optics of 40-7 looks a lot worse than 30-15. But if you watch the game, you know it wasn't even close at any point. Texas couldn't do anything on offense. Georgia, they have first rounders on their defense year in and year out. That's a fact. They fly around, they get after the football, they get after the ball carrier. Texas couldn't do anything on the ground. They had 29 yards rushing the whole game. They barely averaged 1 yard a carry, which is disgusting. Cool. We can't run the football tonight. What do we got? We got a top 5 quarterback prospect under center. Let's give him the rock, put the ball in his hand, let's let him make some great decisions, and let him win us the game. No. Because Quinn Ewers was looking like he was playing against 13 guys at some points during the game last night. That's how bad he looked. And then you're like, all right, if I'm Sarkisian, I'm like, all right, he can't get it done. We got a quarterback prodigy, nephew of 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to play this game. The fans are waiting for this guy to get in. The media can't wait this guy to get in. Dan Orlovsky was damn near salivating over him, just saying they need to put him in. They need to put him in last night. They got him on the bench, Arch Manning on the bench, just licking his chops, ready to get in the game. And Georgia said, sorry, Arch, this isn't a Disney movie. There will be no hero story here. This is SEC football. This is what real dogs do. And they got after him like some fresh meat. It was, again, Texas had zero answers for what Georgia was throwing at them. I don't want to start playing the woulda, coulda, shoulda because, again, Carson Beck threw 2 picks last night. One went straight off the hands of the receiver. Had he caught it, or he would have probably ran into the end zone or at least got down to the inside the 5. Then this game is even more of a blowout than what it was. I told y'all, man, Kirby Smart is pushing players on the other team. Guys are getting arrested every other week. This team might be the new late 2000s Florida Gators. where they don't care about nothing. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about the optics of things. They are just out there to play football and win games. That's just what it is. Craziness happening. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be completely honest. It's probably a good thing that Alabama lost yesterday. It's probably a great thing that Alabama took that loss to Tennessee so they could save themselves of the embarrassment of what would be to come had they had to play Georgia coming up in the SEC championship. Because UGA's got something for them. The next time they see them, the next time they play, Georgia's got something for them. And if they met up again, it would get disrespectful. It would get nasty. It would get disgusting. I know Kirby Smart and those guys down in Athens are just disgusted that they even lost to these guys, especially after seeing what they've been doing and the three or four games Alabama has done since playing Georgia. Alabama played their best football of the season in late September, and that's something you just cannot do when you have aspirations of playing in December and January. And that's the best they're going to look this whole year. That's the best Alabama's going to look all year, was late September against UGA, because since that they have looked lost. Since that they don't even look like the University of Alabama that we have known over the last decade, 15 years. Because in a game where they had chance after chance after chance, opportunity after opportunity to just put it away or expand on a lead, they just couldn't figure it out. Why Alabama keeps trying to make Jalen Milroe a passing quarterback, I do not know. The guy is a great football player. Immense talent, elite athletic ability. Why is he throwing the ball 45 times a game? Jalen Milroe should not be throwing the ball more than 35 times a game, and that's being generous. 25 or 45, 239 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions against Tennessee. I'm watching this game, I'm just like, man, why do they keep dropping back and letting him throw the rock? Why do they keep letting him make decisions? Like, again, great talent. He's a great football player. It's just not what he does best. It's not what Jalen Hurts did best at Alabama either. It's just a fact. They have to go back to finding their identity. Because I'm sorry, Kalen DeBoer, this isn't Washington. This is no longer the Pac-12. The Alabama that we knew, that we grew up on, ran the football. They built their dynasties on the backs of running the ball down people's throats and defenses flying around. This is the first year we don't even know who the starting running back at Alabama is. Don't know his name. Quite frankly, we don't care because he hasn't made any noise. It just isn't who the Tide are. And until they figure that out, until they get a guy in there on their roster that can make something shake with a rock in their hands, this is what it's going to be. Their whole recruiting effort next year needs to be O-line running backs. How can we get back? It's just in some teams' DNA, right? The Baltimore Ravens, for example, it's just in their DNA. They're going to play smash mouth football and great defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers, it's just in their DNA that they're going to play great defense. No matter who's the head coach, no matter who they have on the defensive side of the ball, no matter who's the defensive coordinator, it's just in those teams' DNA. Alabama is one of those cultures. It just, whatever it is in Tuscaloosa, it's the water, whatever they're feeding them at the cafe, it's we run the football and we make teams pay. And that's what it's got to be. It was like that when Tua was there, even when they had a great quarterback play with him and Mac Jones. It was like that when they had Devontae Smith, who won a Heisman as a receiver. They still had guys who could tote the rock and run the football. Tennessee was not good. Bama had no business letting them in the game. Tennessee's quarterback, who was the top prospect, he didn't look great to me. Their defense didn't look great. I just think Bama just isn't who we think they are anymore. Again, their win against UGA was a fluke. I'm calling it right now. I think if they played them again, it wouldn't even be close. And had South Carolina acted like they actually knew what to do in a close game down the stretch, this would have been Bama's third loss in a row, and people would have been looking at DeBoer like, man, what are you doing? Bama's gonna have to blow for them to win the media back, for them to even give us hope that they have something to give late in the season. They're gonna have to blow some teams out. this back half of the season, they're going to have to just make a statement, blow some teams out for us to believe that they can do anything of importance at any time during this playoff run. I'm just being honest. If they even make the playoffs. Talking about quarterback play, Shedeur Sanders should be the first pick in next year's draft, and if not, he needs to be the first quarterback off the board. There should be no discussion, no question after that. Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers did nothing but help Sanders' draft stock last night with both of their performances in the last game. Two guys who some deem could be the first quarterback off the board, and they were out there throwing picks. They were out there missing wide open guys. They did not look good at all. It was not great quarterback play on either side, and neither guy looked like a franchise quarterback. It was kind of like, and we haven't seen him yet in Atlanta, but it was kind of like the feeling we got after seeing Michael Penix play in the national championship against Michigan last year. Was everybody was talking about, oh, Penix might be the first quarterback off the board, or Penix this, or Penix needs to be in the discussion for top quarterback. And then he went out there and he looked like he had no business being a top quarterback draft pick. This is the feeling I got watching Beck and Ewers play last night. Is I'm just like, man, they are making Shedeur's life easier. Because Shedeur is one of the most accurate quarterbacks to come out in a long time. He doesn't miss many throws. And he's going to put the ball in the tight windows and he's going to make his wide receivers look good. Not to mention he's doing all that in Colorado. With a trash O-line, with absolutely no run game. Do we know what Shedeur Sanders would be doing if he had the O-line and the run game that Georgia has? Like, if he just had everything around him that Carson Beck has, Shedeur Sanders would be the Heisman favorite. It wouldn't even be close. And I really hope NFL GMs don't overthink this. Don't overthink this. Don't mess this up. Shedeur is the best quarterback in this draft, and it should no longer be a discussion. It's not even close. Just make it happen. But, man, I want to see what the rankings are later. We got some great NFL on tonight. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. If you made it this far, I appreciate you guys tapping in with me. Until next time. Peace.